Thank you very much, and thank you both for your statements. And we'll go to Mr. Reid, 7 minutes round. Mr. Reid.
Thank you. I'd like to start, if I could, with Mr. Brock. You're obviously both free to comment on the things I ask, but I am a little bit worried that if you both comment on my first thing, I won't get around to the second question, which is intended for Professor Archer. So I alert you to that. Advertising. On the issue of advertising, there were formerly very little in the way of restrictions at all on what the CEO could do, and I was very frustrated with the fact that the Chief Electoral Officer spent a lot of time advertising on why you should vote and very little on how you can vote. I personally found some of the advertising both, so it seemed to me, ineffectual. The ads, for example, that show people with tape over their mouths, they start speaking and no sound comes out. I didn't think that was a very effective way of getting people out to vote. But it also starts with the assumption that there's something wrong with the rest of the system, with you as a voter if you aren't getting out and voting. There's something wrong with maybe the people who are presenting themselves as candidates, as opposed to there's something wrong with the way the system itself is administered. And I think that there's a lot of evidence that that actually is where the problem lies. With regard to the problem of lack of youth participation, the CEO conducted a study and published it on his website, which broke down young people into 7 subcategories, as I recall. No, 5 subcategories, I'm sorry. And then explains the reasons why they weren't participating. Lack of an accurate voter information card was ranked as one of the reasons for 3 of the subgroups, for a majority of the subgroups. So clearly there is a problem there. And that is the reason, I know this because I lobbied the minister to put this in, why the CEO, in the list of things his advertising can do, it says how an elector may establish their identity and residence in order to vote, including the pieces of ID they may use to that end. People don't vote in some cases because they aren't sure where to vote. They're new to the community, they're not sure where the voting station takes place. They don't get a voter information card. Sometimes they're given information cards that give the wrong location. That can happen too, but this is a significant problem, and that is not going to be resolved by an advertising campaign about why you should vote. It's about the bread and butter. Here's how you vote. Likewise, we had a group that came to my constituency office. We arranged for them to meet with the minister, who are disabled people, explaining how you can vote if you're disabled, voting at home, voting if you're shut in. Anybody who's gone out canvassing knows that there are many people who can't get out of their houses for a variety of reasons. They're disabled and they have to wait for their son or grandson to carry them down the stairs. That happens. They've got a diaper they're in the middle of changing when you knock on their door to ask them to vote for you. There are a variety of reasons that involve making it difficult. Explaining how you can vote at an advance poll, how you can vote at the returning office, how you can vote by mail. All of these things are not advertised as well as they should be. If I could make a change to Section 18 of the Act, from what it says now, it wouldn't say the Chief Electoral Officer may provide the public with these things. It would be the Chief Electoral Officer must provide the public with these things and must report afterwards as to how effective they were and how they could be improved. So I throw all these things out, but I understand what you're saying regarding advertising. I hope you can appreciate the frustrations I have with regard to the efficacy of our advertising given some of the problems that exist.
Great. Well, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the comments and the question. I do have a strong appreciation for the arguments made by the member. To provide an example, last March we cooperated with a public policy forum to conduct a dialogue on youth civic engagement. And part of what we heard from young people was that they needed a better understanding of the reasons for voter registration, and then just the basic methodology of how to register to vote. And that was a very strong message that we took in recognizing that 2 of the 3 priorities for the inter-election period for elections NWT, improving civic engagement, particularly youth civic engagement, and improving the quality of our Register of Territorial Electors, which produces the voters list. There was a clear thread between those, and that there was action we could take to act on that. So that's an illustration of the strength of my appreciation for the argument just made by the member. But perhaps I can say two things. One is, I think in terms of reporting back, there's always value in agencies of Parliament reporting back to the legislature in terms of their effectiveness of how they expend taxpayer dollars. But one of the difficulties, of course, with voter turnout is there are numerous variables that affect turnout, and so it's difficult to say in a causal fashion that one form of advertising may have been more effective than the other, although there have been suggestions about how randomized experiments and using different methods of advertising in different electoral districts can help discern between those. And then finally, I would say, with respect, that I think recognizing there's a need to improve the how, when, why of voting doesn't necessarily negate the importance of having the Chief Electoral Officer also communicate the importance of voting generally. And so the two are not mutually exclusive, and I think both are very important to communicate to electors. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, given the fact that we've only got 1 minute left in my allotted time, why don't I just ask Professor Archer to comment on the same thing rather than posing a new question?
Sure. So in the recent election in British Columbia, we focused a lot of our attention on trying to convey a set of key messages to our electors. First, the message was where and when and how to vote. And the second message was voting is your right as a citizen, and we make significant opportunities available to you as a voter. So, as David was saying, we tend not to separate into watertight compartments the types of messaging that we provide to voters, and certainly virtually all of our messaging includes the key elements of how an elector can exercise their franchise. We also engaged in a lot of outreach of electors in the most recent election, particularly people who either were not on the voters list or for whom the information on the voters list was not current.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. We have to move on. Mr. Reid's time is completed. Maybe you'll get a chance to share the thought during Mr. Scott's 7 minutes.